Please take your seats as the ceremony will begin momentarily. At this time, please silence or turn off all phones and electronic devices. Throughout the ceremony, you will be given cues to stand, applaud, and be seated at the appropriate times. As a reminder, during our national anthem, military members in uniform should stand at attention, while civilians should stand and place their right hand over their heart. Good morning. On behalf of our presiding officer, General Duke Z. Richardson, Commander, Air Force Materiel Command, welcome to the National Museum of the United States Air Force at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio. Today, Major General Heather L. Pringle will pass command of the Air Force Research Laboratory to Brigadier General Scott A. Cain, immediately followed by a retirement ceremony in honor of General Pringle. I am Tori Bilsma, your narrator for today's ceremony. We are honored to have some special guests with us today. Please hold your applause until everyone has been introduced. General Richardson's spouse, Mrs. Dee Dee Richardson. Major General Pringle's family, her spouse, J.T. Harris. Their children, Jordy, Zach, and Bryce. Her parents, Lorna and H.L. Pringle. Her brother, Cam, accompanied by his daughter, Sophia. Her sister, Erin Evans, accompanied by her spouse, Dan, and her sister-in-law, Deanna Hash, accompanied by her spouse, Paul. Brigadier General Kane's family, his spouse, Michelle, his mother, Nadine, his sister, Mary Tripode, accompanied by her children, Nick and Liam, and joining us virtually, his father and mother-in-law, Steve and Judy Breezy. The leadership team from the Air Force Materiel Command. The commander, Lieutenant General Carl Schaefer, accompanied by his spouse, Pauline, and the command chief, Chief Master Sergeant David Flossie. The command team from the Air Force Life Cycle Management Center. The commander, Lieutenant General Sean Morris, accompanied by his spouse, Jean, the executive director, Miss Kathy Watern, and the vice commander, Colonel John Currian. The commander, Space Systems Command, Lieutenant General Michael Gutlein, former Vice Commander, Air Force Materiel Command, Lieutenant General Dick Reynolds, United States Air Force, retired. Former Commander, Air Force Life Cycle Management Center and Air Force Research Laboratory, Lieutenant General Robert D. McMurray, United States Air Force, retired. The Mayor, City of Oakwood, the Honorable William Duncan. The Mayor, City of Xenia, the Honorable Sarah Mays. The Mayor, City of Riverside, the Honorable Pete Williams, accompanied by his spouse, Rebecca. Ohio State Senator, the 10th District, the Honorable Bob Hackett. The Chief Scientist, United States Air Force, Dr. Victoria Coleman. We also welcome all community representatives, senior officers, commanders, chiefs, first sergeants, friends, family, airmen, and guardians. Thank you for attending. Please stand for the arrival of the official party, playing of the Ruffles and Flourishes, and the General's March. Please remain standing for the presentation of the colors by the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base Honor Guard and the singing of the National Anthem of the United States of America by the Air Force Band of Flight's Technical Sergeant Ainsley DeWitt.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Air Force Band of Flight and Wright-Patterson Air Force Base Honor Guard. Chaplain Jimmy Browning, please come forward to offer the invocation.
General Pringle, thank you for the invite to come back to AFMC to be with you again and to serve you again. It's an honor to be here. If it is in your tradition to pray, please join me in this solemn moment. Almighty God, it is with a deep sense of gratitude as we gather to celebrate the long and distinguished career of Major General Heather Pringle. You have imprinted her with your image, giving her a passion for people and a determination for mission. On this special occasion, we honor the service and accomplishments of Major General Pringle as the Commander and Technology Executive Officer, Office Air Force Research Laboratory. Equally, we acknowledge her success is in large part because of the loving support of her husband, JT, their children, Jody, Zach, and Bryce, their family members and friends, the mentors, colleagues, and those who have worked alongside her. Bless her and her family in this transition as new opportunities lay before them. Renew and refresh them as they begin the next chapter in their life's journey. For the incoming commander, we thank you for Brigadier General Kane. Grant him courage and fortitude as he begins. May he not be blinded by the distractions of the urgent, but grant him clarity of vision to see the important and how he can build upon the success of all those who have preceded him. Guide him and those he leads with your wisdom and discernment as they shape our nation's preparation to confront potential and significant challenges and threats. Equally bless his wife Michelle and their children as they make this transition. Thank you for their family members and special guests who have come to celebrate this important occasion and have supported Brigadier General Kane all these years. Now I conclude this prayer before I wear out my welcome with a final and simple request. God bless America and the men and women who serve to protect this our precious liberties. In your name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Browning, for those inspiring words. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. It is my pleasure to introduce our presiding officer, General Duke Richardson.
Good early morning. Not sure I've ever attended a change of command this early. Who's responsible for that? Oh, Michelle. Where's Michelle? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hey, this is a great day for the Air Force Research Lab. The crowd here is amazing. I'm very humbled to officiate the transfer of command from one awesome airman leader to another, from Major General Heather Pringle to Brigadier General Scott, as we call him, Nova Cain. Thank you, Chaplain Browning. I'm not sure where he went. I haven't seen you in 6 or 7 years, but thanks for coming back and doing this for us for the invocation. I want to welcome all the senior leaders in attendance. I wish I could call out each of you by name. I'll just try to generalize it a little bit, just to let you know who we have in the audience here. We have national, state, we have local, and we have city senior leaders here with us today. We also have retired Air Force senior leaders with us today. We have Space Force and Air Force senior leaders. General Gutlein, thank you for coming. We have, I just did what I said I wouldn't do, huh? You must be special. We have Headquarters Air Force Material Command and AFRL teammates, family, and friends. And we've got a really great crowd. I think there's probably in excess of 300 people in the room. And I think we've also got an online presence. So thanks for attending. And I think the reason the crowd's so large, really a couple of reasons. The first reason is it's a testament to the importance of the Air Force Research Lab that we can pull this many people together. But it's also a testament to the leadership that I have up here with me today in both General Pringle and General Kane. And so I'm very excited to get to do this. This is a significant event. We're going to pass the baton today, the AFRL flag, and I just don't think we can really overstate. They say this is symbolic, but for me it's much more than that. So when this is over, Nova, you are going to be the commander. When this is over, Heather, your rucksack's going to be a whole lot lighter. And I know that the Pringle and the Harris family is very much looking forward to that. And so I want to talk about the families a little bit because we're sending off one of the most accomplished commanders today, and we're going to welcome another one. And I know both these people pretty well, and I know if I turn to either one of them, either Heather or Nova, they would say the same thing, that there's no way they could do what they've done in the past or going to do in the future without the love, without the encouragement, and the support of their families. It really starts there. And so we've got a very large family presence here, and I'm pretty excited about that. So I'm going to walk through that very briefly. I won't take too long on that because it's primarily about the change of command part. But I wanted to mention JT Harris. JT has been a stalwart next to her side. They're working as a team. They're both working professionals, and he's been incredibly supportive along the way. They actually met in high school. I won't go through that whole story, but it's actually kind of a cute story, if I do say so, that we talked about a little bit, but I won't go through the details here. They've been married 32 years. That's pretty good. I haven't counted the moves, but I'm sure there's a few, and I'm sure it was not easy every day going through those 32 years. But they've got 3 great children. Jordy's 27. Jordy, raise your hand. Jordy's a doctor. So she's going through, she's basically pharmacology, I guess. I'm not sure exactly the right term, but basically she likes drugs. And so don't hang around our airmen at all, okay? Just get away from it. But she's finishing up her residency in Kentucky. Then we've got Zach. Zach's 25. Zach, raise your hand. Zach's in Laramie, Wyoming right now. He's working on a PhD. Guess what it's in? Artificial intelligence. That's not exactly a popular topic. And so I don't know when you started that, whether you knew this whole thing would explode, but it certainly has exploded recently. I already got a chance to talk to him. We're going to talk more later because I have all kinds of questions for him. And so I know he's a little nervous right now because he doesn't know what I'm going to be asking. But later on at Bass Lake Lodge, I'm looking for you. Don't be trying to hide, put a hat on, or anything like that. Then we've got Bryce. Bryce, raise your hand. Bryce is only 12. Bryce is following in his siblings' footsteps. I should have mentioned that yeah, I think I did. Zach is working on a PhD as well. So this is going to be a whole family of doctors, apparently, because of course General Pringle has a PhD as well. But Bryce is starting out strong. He loves math, chess, soccer, and robotics. That's quite a collection of interests for a 12-year-old. And then we've got her parents, Lorna and H.L. Pringle, are here coming in from Idaho. Heather grew up in Idaho, turns out. I think they're on the same street. She actually grew up on a street called Main Street. Like, you just can't make that up. And so they're still living in that house. I asked H.L., I got to rat you out a little bit. I asked H.L., hey, what does H.L. stand for? He looked at me with a straight face and said, high living. I don't really think that's the case. He never would tell me what it stood for, but he's high living apparently. Her brother Cam and Cam's daughter Sophia is with us. Where's Cam and Sophia? With us here today. And then sister Erin Evans and her spouse Dan from Layton, Utah are here as well. And so we've got a great crowd. And of course, JT, your sister Deanna Hash and her spouse Paul from Idaho. So this family hails from a number of 4 states: Idaho, Utah, Virginia, and Wyoming. And then, of course, we got the Cain. So we got Michelle. Where's Michelle? There in the end. Michelle, her parents, Steve and Judy Breezy, are, I think, online virtually watching this. And then Nova's mom, Nadine, is here with us as well. I got schooled from Nadine. By the way, Nadine, I'm not actually from Ohio. She's from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. She's not real comfortable being in Ohio right now. And I'm actually being serious. And I said, wow, good thing this ceremony's not in Columbus, huh? And she said, yes. So I'm sure, I don't know if you're driving out immediately or whether you're going to stick around for a little while, but very proud Michigander there. And then Sister Mary, I probably messed this name up. I'm going to give it a try. Tripode, close, is with us as well. So they hail from both Michigan and Arizona. And so I just really quickly go through the family. Really strong family on both sides. I know they're very happy to have them here with us. Okay, the task at hand. I want to set the stage a little bit and make sure that we all realize what Heather walked into. And if it's okay, I'm going to call you Heather and Nova. Is that all right? What Heather walked into when she agreed to take this job. I met her when I was the SAF-AQ military deputy in the Pentagon, and she was on fire. I mean, you could just tell she was running 100% all day long. In fact, I don't know that I've ever seen you not in an upbeat mood. And it's very, very infectious. And so somebody had a great idea to make her the lab commander. And so I want to talk about the context that she walked in, because I think it's important to what I think you've accomplished. She does not know what I'm going to say, either the challenges or what I consider to be her top accomplishments. I'm not going to run through programs like Thor or I'm not going to run through all that stuff that you probably think I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about what you did in this contextual environment that you walked into. First thing that's important to know is AFRL is massive. 11,000 people spread across 10 states and 6 countries. So just give you a sense for the size of the organization. Nova, you're probably taking mental notes as well here. It's $5 to $6 billion a year in execution. So we're talking a lot of money. That's annual execution. 4 what I call flavors of research that kind of span from basic research all the way to prototyping. I won't go through them to save time, but really a large S&T job. So when you think S&T, just don't think of one thing. It's actually 4 or 5 different flavors of S&T. A wide customer base, beyond just the DAF. half of her money isn't even Department of the Air Force money. So she's got a whole lot of customers that she's had to keep happy. This is my favorite part. This is where I will talk a little bit about technology. I'm going to do it really fast because I know there's going to be some doctor from the lab out there that's going to get their feelings hurt when I leave something out. You ready? Okay. The full breadth of S&T, Dr. Bunning's going to be taking, he's going to be checking them off right here. Okay, sensors, weapons, information, communications, IT, materials, lasers, directed energy, EW, quantum, robotics, artificial intelligence, human performance, autonomy, air vehicles, space vehicles, advanced manufacturing, microelectronics, position, navigation, and timing, launch, orbital mechanics. Did I miss any? I did? Oh gosh. Okay, so that's a lot of stuff. So it gives you a sense for the breadth of what we have asked her to do. AFRL is massive. That is important context to know about this job. The second thing to know is unity of command is not a thing for Heather. We mentioned she's a commander. In that case, I'm her boss. But really, that's a small part of what she does, depending on the day, probably. She's also the technology executive officer for the Air Force. And so let's add some bosses. The Secretary of the Air Force, the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, the Chief of Space Operations, Honorable Hunter, Honorable Calvelli, other services, OSD, the Hill. You have a lot of bosses. And they reach out directly to her. They don't go through me as a stopping layer. They go straight to Heather. And so you'll see that that definitely adds a lot of challenge and context. So unity of command, that doesn't work anymore. Third thing is the existence of this S&T strategy. So she walked into the job, and we had just published the S&T strategy 2030. Y'all remember that? And so she basically, I'll say the word saddled, I don't know if that's fair, but she effectively got saddled with objectives and priorities before she even got in the job. And so that was, I think, a third complication that you walked into. Number 4, the creation of a new service, December of 19. So a few months before she started, we decided we're going to create the Space Force. That set off an entirely new set of things that you had to work. What do we do with the S&T? Do we allocate it separately? How does that work? Should she wear another patch on her uniform? The answer to both questions is yes, yes, and yes. She actually did wear the Space Force patch, and we did actually sequester the money for space research separately. Okay, COVID-19. That was declared a pandemic in March of 2020, just a few months before you took over. That changed things a little bit. AFWorks. We decided to move this organization called AFWorks and SpaceWorks out of the National Capital Region into the lab so that we could better focus on disciplined execution. We gave that to her and said, fix that. And then let's not forget the Holy Grail. July of 2021, Secretary of the Air Force Kendall and his operational imperatives arrive on the scene. Remember that? Another thing to throw into her rucksack. And so I think it's important when you think about her accomplishments to really look at that contextual environment. A lot of change, a lot of things outside her control that she has to figure out. It's impressive. You got to be tired after 3 years. And so how did she respond in this, what I would consider a very much a whitewater environment? Well, she curled up into a ball and started to cry. No, just kidding. No, she didn't do that. Here's what she did. And I watched it when I was up in the Pentagon, and then I watched it the last year that I've been in this job. She assembled, she sorted, and she simplified all of those contextual forces I just articulated. And she built her 3 priorities. And she is stuck to them from the start until today. And I want to walk through them very quickly. I won't really talk about them too much, but the first one is accelerate S&T. The second one was operate the lab as 1 lab, 2 services. So you'll hear her say that all the time. 1 lab, 2 services. And the third thing is lead the best AFRL team. And that's what she said as her North Star, and she just stuck to it from the start to the finish. And so, Heather, I think that between the context and your priorities, I'm going to now attempt to walk through what I think you've accomplished. So are you ready? And I'm going to group them really into 6 themes. The first one's by far the largest. And it's really a collection of meet statements. And so the first one is the S&T 2030 strategy meets Heather. You met the strategy, and here's what she did. She built an S&T plan that migrates 20% of the S&T budget to a more focused, more midterm, more transformational portfolio, managed independently from the other 80%. This was a very large change for the lab, and she made that happen. That 20% that she carved out would then go on to spawn the vanguards that we all know and love. This is the part that you see publicly. Skyborg, Golden Horde, NTS-3, Rocket Cargo. We all know those names. That's where that money came from to actually get those efforts started. Then she built a process called WarTech that partners the warfighters with technologists, with acquirers to get AFRL's priority set so that we can look past those vanguards. Part of the WarTech process is to figure out what the vanguards are past that initial set of 4. That's a lot of stuff. And then while I'm talking about vanguards, she led the lab to really bring this concept to life. For those that are not initiated, a vanguard is a set of research projects that are designed together to flesh out warfighting concepts and technologies. And we do that primarily through a prototyping and experimentation campaign. And she set this up, this WarTech process, so it's like a tri-chair, if you will, tri-chaired by a warfighter, most notably and usually an A8 from one of the other MAGCOMs, a PEO, whatever PEO would apply to that, because that's the acquirer part. That's how we get stuff across the finish line. And then herself as the lab commander. And so this WarTech process is something that she instituted after she got here. And really the overall intent, if you think about vanguards, is to get through what we call the Valley of Death, turn that Vanguard program into a program of record, something that the Air Force is committed to. And while I'm talking about programs of record, we were actually successful. The very first one, Skyborg, is now a program of record. So I won't go through what Skyborg is, but I'll just say that it has spawned the program of record that we now call the Collaborative Combat Aircraft. So we've now invested upwards of I'm not sure I can say the amount, but upwards of multi-billions of dollars against this new program called CCA. And so basically we've metaphorically flown Skyborg over the Valley of Death, and that's pretty exciting. That was so successful that she took a step back and said, we need to institutionalize that somehow. And so she created this thing called the Integrated Capabilities Directorate. And pulled that together. There were some offices that were doing some of this work, but it's all very related to that 20%. And so she created this directorate. And you can think of that directorate as like a cross-cutter. So if all the tech directorates are vertical, this is going horizontal. And so the job is to not just look at individual technologies, but to look at fielding things. And so she set that up. That includes the Strategic Development Planning and Experimentation Office, something we affectionately call SPEEDY. That includes the Transformational Capabilities Office, or the TCO. They run the vanguards. And that also includes the Center for Rapid Innovation, which is really focused on much more near-term things. There's also some architecture work that goes on there. But this integration office really is looking at, let's get these programs across the Valley of Death. And each of those 3 entities that I described kind of look at it from a different time frame. I think that's remarkable. That institutionalizes this process. So rather than just carving out 20%, you didn't stop there. You went much further than was defined in S&T 2030 strategy. And so when the S&T 2030 strategy met Heather, the S&T 2030 strategy lost, or won, depending on how you look at it. So good on you. That's impressive work. She did not flush the S&T 2030 strategy. Okay, theme number 2. The rest of them are a little bit quicker, I promise. SecAF and his OIs meet Heather. What did she do when she was challenged on whether the lab's S&T priorities were aligned to his operational imperatives? Well, she dug in and she did a mission. She built teams to do essentially mission decomposition of each of the OIs to figure out what the S&T gaps were for that particular OI, and then she aligned resources to it. By the way, I was just at Rome Research Site, which is not here. It's in Rome, New York. far away from the AFRL flagpole, and they talked about this with me, their mission decompositions and how they got their gaps. That was your process. And so your teams out in the hinterlands are doing exactly what you set up. And so I would say that she's really gotten after the SecGAF and his OIs to make sure the lab is very responsive to those imperatives. The third theme is the Space Force meets Heather. Okay, and this is not really distinct from the first one, but I wanted to pull it out as a separate theme because what she did for the Space Force, she appointed a deputy TEO specifically for space, S&T. And then she created separate accounting and tracking for the parts of S&T that can be most closely aligned to space. Now, this is kind of hard because if you talk to her about this, she'll always come up with and of course she attributes it, because she's a professional, to General Polakowski, and I'll quote, "Technology doesn't know its application until we tell it." So what that does, it really allows the Space Force to get all that the Air Force is investing in, all the 6.1, 6.2, even 6.3 research, but then also have a special carve out for very specific Space Force RDT&E so that we can make sure that we get after space-only needs. And so I think that's terrific. And I think General Gutlein is here today. I don't think that's an accident. So when she says one lab, two services, she means it. Nova, your job is to continue that theme. Your new boss, one of your new bosses, is going to insist on it. Okay, number 4 theme. AFWorks and SpaceWorks meet Heather. This is an entire book, right? We won't go through it, but it was significant enough that I want to touch on it. She expanded and strengthened AFWorks and SpaceWorks from what I'll call a scrappy startup in DC into a disciplined team of 250 that now follows sustainable, repeatable, and a defendable business model. And so they're running at speed now. And her work there has garnered a lot of attention and positive respect from OSD, specifically Ms. Heidi Hsu, the USD R&E. And so, again, this is a whole nother topic, but AFWorks and SpaceWorks, I think, are really running really well. We just initiated our 3.0 model of that, and that took a lot of time and attention. Okay, number 5, the pandemic meets Heather. She kept her lab research team running safely and at pace all through the pandemic. But that's not all. Little known fact, the lab is responsible for this thing called the Defense Production Act on behalf of the nation, where we execute money to make sure that we can keep critical production resources on shore. And so she kickstarted that on behalf of the nation and also on behalf of the Department of Defense. So if you can think about N95 respirators, you probably don't know that we were responsible for getting the nation ramped up on that under Heather's leadership, to the point where we were able to generate 37 million N95 masks each month. And so Heather was able to do that. The areas that I thought were most notable were 2 areas. First is small lift space launch. We insurged a bunch of capacity there where they were really hurting from the pandemic, as well as propulsion. Okay, number 6, the world and the workforce meet Heather. She expanded partnerships external to the DAF by 20%. She teamed with the PEOs like no other AFRL commander that I've ever seen. And so very often you'll see Heather and the PEOs side by side, which is pretty remarkable. She set an extremely positive leadership example within AFRL, within AFMC, and within the DAF. And to that end, Heather, you will be remembered as, at least to me, a leader, a coach, a visionary, an inspirer, a team builder, and an airman and a guardian. And so Heather, on behalf of the men and women of the Department of the Air Force and AFMC, thank you for your vision, leadership, and results during your remarkable and unforgettable tenure. It's not easy being in command of this center, especially within the whitewater environment that was not of your doing. You provided the precise leadership we needed, how we needed it, and when we needed it. It has been an honor to serve with you. We all wish you and your family the absolute best as you transition into retirement. Now, when you lose someone of Heather's caliber, it's important to find someone equally as impressive. Someone to take the baton and advance it even further. That person is Nova Cain. Let me just talk about Nova very briefly, personally. Married to Michelle, I mentioned. They met at Holloman Air Force Base. The daughter, Nadia, 18, is not with us because she's studying abroad. I thought she was in Greece, but apparently she's already moved on to Paris. So she's moving quickly. She loves to play 80s rock on her electric guitar. Do you sing along? Yes. Not, oh, I can't even do it. I'm not cool enough for that. Son Evan is 14. He's at scout camp on his way to earning an Eagle Scout, so he's very close to that at a very young age. He and Michelle make life decisions solely on the quality of the fishing. So didn't know that, but they're very avid fishermen. That's part of their relationship story. Turns out Michelle already knew how to fish, maybe better than him, when they met. He has a BS in astronautical engineering from the Academy and an MS in aerospace engineering from the University of Colorado. When you look at General Kane's background and experiences, it's easy to see why he's the perfect hire as the next AFRL commander. I'll start with where I met him. He was the 412th Ops Group Commander at Edwards Air Force Base, responsible for a couple of programs that I was also responsible for, most specifically KC-46, and the next Air Force One, which we call the VC-25B. So that's where I met him, and I was immediately struck by his professionalism and just his demeanor, and he's just a good soul. I mean, I don't know how else to describe him. He's a two-time wing commander within Air Force Material Command. So he was the wing commander at Arnold Air Engineering and Development Center in Tullahoma, Oklahoma, which is where we do a lot of research work effectively. I mean, it could almost be part of the lab, if you will. He was also the wing commander at the 96 Test Wing, which is where we do a lot of testing right now for a lot of the things that the lab does. And so you've got firsthand, what the lab works on is not new to Nova. He's a dual patch wearer. What that means is he's a graduate of weapons school, and he's also a graduate of test pilot school. That's pretty unusual in our business. And so he's got a lot of credibility both in operations and also in acquisition. He's a DARPA fellow. So Defense Advanced Research something organization. Basically, it's a organization that does the toughest S&T challenges that our nation has. I think they actually did invent the internet a number of years ago, for example, and a number of other things, including stealth and other things. So a lot of that spawned out of DARPA. Dr. Coleman, sorry, she was the director. She's going to tell me later what that stands for. Project? Agency. Okay, there you go. He worked in OSD AT&L, where he learned about the Pentagon and levels well above the Air Force. And in his early years, he was at Kunsan, Masa, and Holloman, flying operational F-16s and F-117s. So he's got a lot of hours in both of those platforms. And so he's a warfighter as well. And so what you may not know is every time that he has had an opportunity to distinguish graduate in a school, every time, all the way back to the United States Air Force Academy, he DG'd. So the Academy, SOS, Weapons School, Eisenhower. I don't know if I've left out any, but he's done pretty well. And so, Nova, you're inheriting a phenomenal team comprised of remarkable professionals. My charge to you is to lead and take care of them, and they will take care of you. Your challenge is to take the baton and continue running with it. Dee Dee and I look forward to working with you and Michelle. And with that, thank you all for attending, and it's time to do this. Let's go.
Thank you, General Richardson. It is my pleasure to introduce the Commander, Air Force Research Laboratory, Major General Heather Pringle.
All right, let's shake it off their formation. How we doing? There you go. Like it? Love it. You got this. So great. What an incredible energy in the room. I love it. General Richardson, thanks for your very, very kind words. There's nothing more that I love than celebrating science and technology, and there is simply no better place to do it than in the Air Force Museum. So I want to thank Mr. Dave Tillotson and his army of volunteers who made this venue so meaningful and today possible. I also want to thank the Wright-Patterson Honor Guard for another flawless performance and the hours that they stepped to ensure every step would be crisp and show our flag the respect it deserves. I want to thank Tech Sergeant DeWitt for that national anthem. That was beautiful. My heart swelled and my eyes just a little bit as I listened to her inspiring voice. And even when I'm not wearing this uniform, I will never get tired of hearing those words. Chaplain Jimmy Browning, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate your friendship and your uncanny ability to capture a moment and unite our hearts in prayer. You have so many demands on your time, and JT and I are grateful that you and Jan would be here with us today. A special thanks to those who lent a hand in making today possible. The protocol team, Miss Bilesma, thank you. The setup team, the cleanup crews, the Commander's Action Group, Public Affairs, Audio Visual, and many more. Colonel Luker, and the formation of Airmen and Guardians. Let's shake it up again. I don't want anybody else getting hurt. But you're standing there side by side as airmen, as guardians, as one lab for two services, representing a phenomenal team of 10,000 scientists, engineers, and change agents, or what I like to call unicorns. It's great to have so many of you here today to underscore the meaning of today's event. I agree with you, General Richardson, and the value of AFRL to our nation. General Richardson, thank you so much for your leadership, your support and guidance, most especially your strong advocacy of the science and technology mission. It's been an honor serving with you and on your team. I assure you that AFRL is ready for this next chapter. They are already focused on the mission and taking that first step to expand their knowledge, explore new science, and develop game-changing technologies. More than ever, they are prepared to partner across your command to deliver integrated capabilities that our warfighters need. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the many partners in our audience who also enhance the AFRL mission. Family members, teachers, community leaders, acquisition experts, maintenance pros, academia, small businesses, and industrial giants. Our nation needs everyone in this room working together. Technology is evolving quickly with new inventions emerging daily. It would be impossible to keep up with the accelerated pace on our own, and frankly, we wouldn't want to. We are better working together to bridge gaps in knowledge and discover new ways of delivering advanced medical training or innovative capabilities like collaborative combat aircraft or quantum leaps in space communications and domain awareness. I especially appreciate Lieutenant General Mike Gutlein, Lieutenant General Sean Morris, Major General Dale White. Thank you, friend. Mr. Jeff Hoagland, and the Dayton Community Senator. Dr. Sue Edwards, pretty sure she's here, and Dr. Coleman. Special shout outs to Honorable Hunter, Honorable Calvelli, and your teams for unwavering support of AFRL and this important mission. So I could not have picked a better leader to follow in my footsteps than Scott Nova Cain. Y'all might think that his name is an anesthetic, like Novocaine, but those of us in the one lab for two services really know he's more like a supernova, a bright star. I assure you that nobody appreciates the importance of technology advancement than Nova, as someone who's been on the receiving end. He has flown numerous experimental aircraft, and he knows what it takes to deliver advanced capabilities and to bridge that valley of death by getting tech out of the lab and into the hands of warfighters. Nova knows how to take an immature prototype and develop a more operational capability, one that can be produced at scale and sustainable over the long term. Most importantly, Nova is an exceptional leader possessing the intellect and integrity to guide AFRL forward no matter what the future holds. So welcome Michelle and Nova to America's science and technology powerhouse. I'm excited for you to take the helm and lead AFRL to the next level. And I am more than confident that this team will make you proud every single day. And speaking of this team, last but not least, I want to give a special thanks to my teammates across AFRL. By far, you are our nation's most valuable assets, and I hope you don't ever forget that. Thank you for the privilege of leading you through a journey of change, growth, and serving with excellence. To our leaders, from first-level supervisors up to our front office, past and present. Tim Sekulich, Tim Bunning, Joel Luker, Andy Williams, and Bill Fitch, Chief. Jack Blackhurst, Paul Henderson, Kelly Hammett, and Kenan Arnold, Lori Nicole, Stephanie, Mark, and Spencer. Y'all kept us connected, you kept us unified, and you kept the mission going. To those who led strategic change across AFRL toward an integrated approach, spearheading a more digitally connected force, or expanding the mission across the United States and frankly around the world, you have accelerated S&T. To those who embraced the stand-up of the Space Force and AFRL's commitment to multi-domain technologies that support both airmen and guardians, you have succeeded as one lab for two services. And to those who enhanced AFRL's approach to human capital toward a more diverse, equitable, inclusive, and accessible environment where every airman and guardian, I want to keep calling out all these names as I'm scanning, you know, it's like, hey James, hey Steve, sorry, I'm going to keep going though, could rise, where every airman and guardian could rise to their greatest potential. You built and lead the best AFRL team. Rarely do we see the fruits of our labors as overnight successes. It takes a dedicated, adaptable team to do the work of inventing the future. It takes a willingness to fail, get back up, fail again, and keep trying. It takes perseverance, and it is hard work. That, in a nutshell, is the AFRL workforce who made all those things happen that General Richardson talked about. Not me, it was them. They're passionate and patriotic. And in a time when there is high demand for people of such integrity and expertise, the AFRL team continues to show up. And in closing, I have selfishly loved every minute. It's fun to watch a high-performing team launch rockets, build robots, shoot lasers, blow things up, spin astronauts until they puke, and code like crazy. But more than anything, I am deeply grateful that I was ever here. AFRL will continue the work of protecting our nation's future. And in my heart, AFRL will always be our nation's greatest asset. Thank you.
Thank you, General Pringle. The Airmen and Guardians of the Air Force Research Laboratory would like to render a final salute to Major General Pringle. General Richardson and Brigadier General Kane, please join Major General Pringle at center stage. Today's change of command ceremony is deeply rooted in military history and dates back to the reign of Frederick the Great of Prussia. In that era, a ceremony was conducted in front of unit members so that all could see the appointment of their new commander. The modern-day ceremony is principally symbolic, yet still announces to all the authority of the incoming commander in the finest military tradition. Please stand for the change of command ceremony. Attention to orders. Air Force Materiel Command, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio. Under the provisions of Air Force Instruction 51509 and in accordance with Special Order Number G2308, Brigadier General Scott A. Cain is hereby appointed Commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory, effective 5 June 2023. Signed, Duke Z. Richardson, General, United States Air Force. Thank you, General Richardson and Major General Pringle. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The airmen and guardians of the Air Force Research Laboratory would like to render their first salute to Brigadier General Kane. The United States Air Force is proud to introduce the 13th Commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory, Brigadier General Scott A. Cain.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks for coming a little early this morning to the ceremony and for supporting myself and Michelle as we make this transition. I honestly have to say it's incredibly inspiring to be in front of the people that are in this room, to be in front of the men and women of AFRL, and just to be among all the air and space power that's around us. I'm off script already, but I take my family through this museum and I talk to them about the things that we can do as a nation. I talk to them about what it takes to put that aircraft in the air, all the work from the idea to the inception to the employment, and it's absolutely incredible. But as I stand here today, I also think that it's fueled by research. General of the Air Force Henry Hap Arnold, I'll start with his quote, which was, "The first essential of air power necessary for our national security is preeminence in research." And I don't think he would mind if I stood here today and added space power to that. The first essential of air and space power necessary for our national security is preeminence in research. So in this era of air and space power for America, I stand here before you today. So thank you all for being here, especially the members of the Air Force Research Lab, our one lab for two services. I want to make some thanks to, we've heard some thanks from General Richardson and General Pringle, but I've got to thank them too, because it took a lot of people to put together this wonderful morning. So that includes the National Museum of the United States Air Force for hosting this and multiple events today, actually. The Air Force Material Command Protocol team, particularly J.B. Berry and L.J. Littlejohn, I want to thank them. the team that's worked for months to put this together. The Honor Guard, Tech Sergeant DeWitt, and the Band of Flight. Our project officers, Taylor has exceeded all expectations of him today by stepping in. Thank you, Major Patterson and Major Van Valero. The great CAG that I'm going to step into here, I want to make sure I thank them, Candace, Brandon, Diane, and everybody else who had a hand in this. There are a lot of volunteers as well, so I appreciate it all. General Richardson, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to lead the Air Force Research Lab. It truly is a dream job, and I appreciate the confidence in Team Cain moving forward onto this challenge. So I really look forward to advancing the Air Force Materiel Command strategy from another seat. AFMC is powering this world's greatest air and space force, and I'm honored, but I am highly motivated to be leading in this command at a critical time in our department's and our nation's history. I want to thank Major General Pringle. Your leadership, ma'am, has no doubt been superb, and I'm stepping into a strong team, grown tremendously over your tenure. So I look forward to carrying forward that momentum you talked about and that you built. I want to thank the many partners that are here, partners of AFRL. Like General Pringle said, there are a lot more people than I had on my list that I want to talk to, but I will do that at the reception and not here on the stage. But our Air and Space Force leaders, General Gutlein, I appreciate you being here. Our acquisition leadership, program executive officers, our total force partners, national and community leaders, Senator Hackett, General Reynolds is here. Our partners in industry and academia, and those watching remotely around the globe, including my family members. So I appreciate your joining today. I look forward to partnering with you all to advance AFRL and to achieve our preeminence in research. And finally, I want to thank the family and friends who've joined us today. You got a little prelude to this from General Richardson, but the Michigan family has come south in force. You know, the day is young, but so far no major cross-border disputes have started by some staunch fans of the team up north. But thank you all for behaving so well. And for being here and for coming here from around the country. The others are from outside of the local area. I really wouldn't be here, like General Richardson said, without your love and care and support. So, as you said, sir, with respect to the job at hand, so the Air Force Research Lab, one lab, two services. I am here, we are here simply to drive the fight. We're in a competition, and my intent is simple. We'll advance warfighting with science and technology to win. This doesn't just happen by being here, though. You have to drive. We have to focus our efforts and affect the fight. And we have to be in the fight, understanding and focused on the future. So how do I expect to drive the fight and to power the world's greatest air and space forces? First, we must accelerate technological advance for the Department of the Air Force's priorities. We'll drive operationally relevant science and technology and provide dominant technology to the force. We must continue to close gaps to achieve our operational imperatives, but we also need to lead discovery for technological advantage to win the future fight. Our science and technology investments must be structured so they most efficiently provide enduring advantages, and our S&T program must help us prepare for follow-on decisions. So to accomplish these ends, one of our greatest enablers is a close, enduring connection with the warfighter. And we need to stay connected to our roots, the days when in these hangars, from the steps of the Air Force Research Lab, you could smell the burnt aviation fuel right there from the front steps of the headquarters. We have those connections today. We've established new forums for those connections, and we'll strengthen them to strengthen warfighter relevant outcomes. We must also grow both our world-class S&T workforce and our partnerships with the research and development base, academia, industry, the national labs, our international partners. And for our workforce, we have to fight for talent, bring in the best skills from diverse sources. And we must grow our own, keeping our skills apace with the rapid change that's afoot, and build a climate where everyone can reach their full potential. And finally, while the state of this lab is strong, we'll still need to transform. We need to build our digital future. and transform into the digital landscape to support digital material management. And we're one lab, two services, but we have to remember, we're one lab in one fight. So while we drive for tech advantage in air and space, we must fight to connect across the domains, enable adaptability and flexibility, and not forget that we're in to win the joint fight. So while my goals are lofty, my expectations are high, I feel that we have no choice but to be that good. So as General Raymond, the first Chief of Space Operations for the United States Space Force stated, we're at the hinge of history. So our role, AFRL, is to define what's on the other side of that door, to literally build the future that our air and space forces will find and that our enemies will fear. It's a future we'll deter if necessary, and if necessary, win in order to preserve our way of life. I'm honored to lead the team that can and will accomplish all of this. So let's drive the fight. Commander of Troops, dismiss the formation. Thank you.
Thank you, General Richardson, Brigadier General Kane, and Chief Master Sergeant Fitch. We will now transition to the retirement portion of our ceremony to honor Major General Heather L. Pringle's 32 years of dedicated service to the United States Air Force. It is my pleasure to introduce the presiding officer for the retirement ceremony, Lieutenant General Tom D. Miller, Deputy Chief of Staff, Logistics, Engineering, and Force Protection, Headquarters, United States Air Force. Try that one. It's on, but...
No. Test. Okay, we'll go with that. So military ceremonies are a key part of wearing the cloth of your nation. And in this room, there's literal aviation history. I've had the opportunity to have 5 assignments in Air Force Material Command. And one of the things I would love is to come, and the annual award ceremony would be in this room. And you're just wrapped in aviation history, which gets your blood really pumping. Such a fitting place for this retirement ceremony that we're about to have. So it's exciting. There's a lot that goes on. It's been talked about that there's checklists and teams and setup and tear down, and there's a lot. And the family has to all be dressed and get to a place on time, and it didn't have to get through a gate, but a lot of times that's it. So there's a lot of swirl that goes into that event on its way to a retirement ceremony. But I think if we're fair, we should pause just a minute to remember what we're about to do. And so while it's busy, if you'll allow me, we're here to celebrate a daughter, a sister, a wife, a mother, an airman, an educator, a technology visionary, a leader, a general officer, a friend, my friend, Major General Heather Pringle. We're celebrating the service that she's done for her entire adult life. She served this nation with an incredibly supportive family at her side, and quite frankly gave her the balance that we needed out of her as an Air Force. So we'll talk about Heather in a few minutes, but first I want to add my welcome to the family. First, JT. So great to see you. JT brought a little difference to the senior spouse team when we were at Kirtland. Many of the spouse activities rhymed with golf, so there was a slightly different flavor there. JT, Kim wishes she could be here with me to celebrate for you guys, but sends just her thanks for your leadership. He definitely brought a business perspective to the Ways and Means Committee on the spouse team that was needed there. And just at Kirtland, which was a AFMC wing installation at the time, it just brought so many people in from all the different mission partners around that base. And we really credit that to JT. So Jordy, Zach, and Bryce, who was 50% of his height the last time I saw him. It is great to see the neighborhood kids that have gone on. And yeah, the education theme in this family, General Richardson, you hit it. It would be a challenge to keep up. I will not call you kids because you'd probably react to the way my kids in their 20s and 30s react to that. But just know that, I mean, the moves, the changing of schools, the making new friends over and over again, you absolutely have served your country. You have. You have served your country by moving over and over again, and I'm going to talk about a couple of those moves in a second, so that your mom could do what her nation needed her to do. And we just can't be thankful enough. Everything you touch will be positive, and you'll have a brighter and a broader perspective from those moves, certainly. So thank you for that. Heather and JT have built an amazing family. They really have. And when you think about how challenging that is without all the moves that the military drives into your life, it's even more impressive when you think about how many times the Air Force has asked them to move and they've said yes. So a special welcome to all the family that's here, especially Heather's parents. Thank you for traveling here. I know it means a great deal to her. So retirement ceremonies are about reflection. So let's talk about Dr. Pringle. We should be grateful that she listened to her Aunt Kathy, who talked to her about the opportunity of service academies. So she listened, and she went to the Air Force Academy in 1987 and graduated in 1991, valuing education, and that was not a theme that would die ever, actually. Education is important to Heather, for sure. She went to the University of Illinois and started and earned her master's degree of arts in engineering psychology. Her first post-education assignment was on JSTARS at Hanscom, where she became an executive officer in an airbase wing. And being an executive officer and knowing something about airbase wings would come in handy a little later on. So valuing education, she was called back to the Air Force Academy. This time as an instructor of behavioral science in the leadership department, and she impacted officers' lives. I know officers talk about the professors they had at the Air Force Academy, and they're captains and majors, and they look back and they were shaped when they were 19 and 20 years old by somebody that they could see that was an Air Force officer leading and instructing credibly, and it meant the world to them. And I've heard from a number of them about Dr. Pringle. So after educating others, she returned to her role as a student at the University of Illinois, getting a doctorate in philosophy of engineering psychology, and then went back to the Air Force Academy, this time as an assistant professor, and then in the behavioral science and leadership department. And next she went to Mesa, Arizona, in an organization under the Air Force Research Laboratory as a major. Interestingly, she just had the change of command ceremony for the Air Force Research Laboratory as a major general this time. So there's some common themes across her service. High performers like Heather are picked for in-residence professional military education. And she was and went to Air Command and Staff College in Montgomery, Alabama, where she was a distinguished graduate, not surprisingly. After ACSC, she went to Washington, D.C. and had a number of assignments as the Israel Country Director in SAF IA. She deployed to Afghanistan as the Staff Director for in the Political Advisor's Office, and then returned to D.C. And was in the Iraq office assisting them their greatly needed assistance that they needed at that time. She took all that international experience, came here to AFMC, to the 555th International Materiel Squadron under AFSAC, and leveraged what she had learned in supporting countries and overseas and brought it right back here to AFMC. It had been a few years since Heather had been a distinguished graduate at an educational institution, so she went to National War College and did that again. And then was on the Joint Staff, where she met now retired General Spencer and learned about programming and budgeting. And then she moved out west to Kirtland Air Force Base, and that's where Kim and I got to meet this wonderful family. She was the vice wing commander of the 377th Air Base Wing, and it was almost too good to be true. In fact, it was, because General Welsh called and said she was going to be his executive officer. But he needed the right officer to be his exec, and Heather definitely was that. I was able to watch her firsthand walk into the nuclear enterprise, which is not a simple enterprise to walk into, and the consequences are obvious. She could see things with almost no background or context, understand the most important aspects of the mission, and make the right decision. It was absolutely remarkable. And when I say it hurt when she left, it did hurt when she left to go be the chief's exec. So she did that for 2 years. 2 years of an extremely consequential position where at the highest level of the Air Force, and on its easiest day, it's harder than most jobs in the Air Force. And there probably were not many easy days. As a brigadier general, she took command of one of the most complicated wings in the Air Force, the 502nd Air Base Wing. And we think about 8,000 people, 11 locations around San Antonio, Texas. She probably leveraged a little bit of Air Base Wing knowledge and a little bit of exec knowledge in those last 2 jobs. So then she was pulled back to the Air Staff as the Director of Strategic Plans. General Richardson talked about her time there. And that brings us really to this morning and the change of command ceremony, where there are inspiring leaders in the Air Force that we need at certain times, that the Air Force really needs them. And they may not have asked to be thrust into that position, but when the Air Force needed you, Heather, every single time you have been there. So it's an amazing journey, an impact on national security, an impact on other countries' national security, an impact on families. When I'm given the honor, and I consider this an honor, to be part of a promotion or a retirement ceremony, I scribble down a single sentence immediately after I'm asked, because I figure it's almost word association. It's the first thing you think of. Scribble it down as fast as you can, so that if you and I were walking across the parking lot and you had not met Heather, which you have, but if you had not, and you go, "Hey Miller, tell me about this person, Major General Pringle," this is what I would say. So I scribbled this on a Post-it when we were talking, and I said, "She's one of the most brilliant minds to ever serve in the Air Force, focused on the future, who cares deeply about the mission, and just as deeply about the airmen and the families that accomplished that mission." You'd probably say back to me, "Hey Miller, that sounds like somebody I'd like to meet," and you'd be right. And that sounds like somebody that's served their country their entire adult life, and you'd be right. And somebody that we can all be glad was in the position of responsibility she was in when the Air Force needed her. And you'd be right there too. So Heather, thank you for everything that you've done for airmen that are not in this room. They may be online. Your family has given and given and given to the Air Force. I'm excited about the future that you've got in front of you, and thanks for letting me be a part of this.
Please stand for the medal presentation. Attention to orders. Citation to accompany the award of the Distinguished Service Medal, 1st Oak Leaf Cluster, has been awarded to Major General Heather L. Pringle. The President of the United States of America, authorized by Act of Congress, July 9, 1918, awards the Distinguished Service Medal to Major General Heather L. Pringle for exceptionally meritorious service and duties of great responsibility. General Pringle distinguished herself as a commander, Air Force Research Laboratory, and as the Department of the Air Force's Technology Executive Officer for Air and Space, Air Force Materiel Command, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio, from 30 May 2020 to 31 July 2023. During this period, General Pringle commanded an 11,500-member workforce composed of airmen and guardians with major operating locations in 10 states and 6 countries, overseeing the execution of approximately $6 billion annually. She led her unit through the novel coronavirus pandemic, including guiding the nation's Defense Production Act, Title III Executive Agent Program Office to execute over $1.5 billion and boost domestic N95 respirator production to more than 37 million masks per month. In addition, General Pringle's unparalleled dedication to growing and improving her personnel guided her creation of the laboratory's first ever human capital strategy, setting a benchmark for other service labs to follow. Moreover, with the stand-up of the United States Space Force, she transitioned the Air Force Research Laboratory to become one lab supporting 2 services, growing a 600-person cadre of civilian and military guardians, solidifying more than $250 million per year in space-focused science and technology, and synchronizing Air Force and Space Force research strategies. Finally, General Pringle accelerated and aligned science and technology research to address the Secretary of the Air Force's operational imperatives. She initiated a first-of-its-kind, multidisciplinary capability decomposition across the lab and its customer program offices, reviewing and identifying key technology and development roadmap gaps that must be closed to deliver the capabilities required by our war-fighting forces. The singularly distinctive accomplishments of Major General Pringle culminate a long and distinguished career in the service of her country and reflect the highest credit upon herself and the United States Air Force. Please remain standing for the reading of the retirement orders.
Publish the orders.
Attention to orders. Department of the Air Force, Washington, D.C., Special Order Number ACG 00035 to Heather L. Pringle, effective 31 July 2023. You are relieved from active duty, Air Force Research Laboratory, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio, and retired from the United States Air Force, effective 1 August 2023, after 32 years, 2 months, and 2 days of faithful and honorable duty per Air Force Instruction 36-3203 in the grade of Major General by order of the Secretary of the Air Force. Please be seated. The retirement certificate reads, "To all who shall see these presents, greeting. This is to certify that Major General Heather L. Pringle, having served faithfully and honorably, was retired from the United States Air Force on the first day of August 2023. Signed, General Charles Q. Brown, Chief of Staff, the United States Air Force." General Pringle has also received letters of appreciation from Presidents Joseph R. Biden and George W. Bush. It is a tradition that every retiree receives a special retirement pin as a memento of their active duty service. General Pringle has requested that her spouse, J.T. Harris, and her children, Jordy, Zach, and Bryce, present this pin. Please come forward.
pictures. With the pictures.
Thank you, Jordy, Zach, and Bryce. General Miller will now present a certificate of appreciation to Mr. Harris. We are an Air and Space Force family. It has been said that next to every successful military member, there is a supportive and loving family. The certificate of appreciation reads, "In grateful appreciation, the United States Air Force presents this certificate of recognition to Mr. John T. Harris for the commitment and numerous contributions that made positive impacts to the nation's defense. Thank you for the support which gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service. Signed, General Charles Q. Brown, Chief of Staff, United States Air Force." Thank you, General Miller and Mr. Harris. The Wright-Patterson Air Force Base Honor Guard will now present Major General Pringle with her retirement flag. A true leader has the confidence to stand alone, the courage to make tough decisions, and the compassion to listen to others. Major General Pringle became a true leader by the quality of her actions and the integrity of her intent. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States Air Force is proud to present our guest of honor, Major General Heather L. Pringle, United States Air Force, retired.
My niece just graduated high school, and I learned that move from her, so go Sophia. Thank you, General Miller, for saying all those nice things in front of my mom. And when JT and I talked about retiring, you were always the one that we hoped would be here. And in fact, I don't know how you managed it with the staggering obligations that you have, but JT and I are grateful. And we appreciate you and Kim and Ashley and Josh for your years of friendship and support. And after the number of speeches that we've heard here today, I'm sure there's not a lot left to say, but I hope you'll indulge me this one last time. And I'm going to read it, and I'm usually an off-script kind of gal, but I just kind of need to get through it. And, it's deep, so... so I'm going to read. You'll be glad, I promise. So today marks a big change in my life and career, and I'm grateful that you're here in person or attending virtually to share this moment with me and my family. And I want to start by setting the record straight so you don't get the wrong impression based on General Miller's comments or General Richard's kind words. For example, I fancy myself a kind of decent chef, but I can't avoid burning store-bought frozen waffles. I also like to jog, but I'm always left in the dust by a certain 12-year-old. And I have terrible taste in music, so if I have trouble keeping it together today, I may sing a little ABBA. After all, who can tear up when you're humming Dancing Queen? But the most important correction is what General Miller attributed to me. It was not individually achieved. It was always a team effort with lots of people helping behind the scenes. So I want to acknowledge friends and family and colleagues that made it easier for me to serve. And I'm going to start with the beginning. I did grow up in a small rural town with one stoplight, and Mom and Dad still live on Main Street. But you'll know the house is ours, General Richardson, because of the flagpole out front flying the American flag. Mom and Dad raised me with the values of telling the truth. I forgot to give my gifts. I'll do that in a minute. Yep. Telling the truth and working hard. And if I was going to do something, I had to do it right. And that served me well in the Air Force. So over the course of 17 moves, JT and I could always count on Mom and Dad to help wherever we landed, especially when it came to the grandkids. They made our lives easier, better, and I could not have stayed in 32 years without them. Can't say enough thanks, Mom and Dad. I love you both. I have a little sister who stands 3 inches taller than me, and she beat me at every track race in high school. She's always been the better athlete, but she also has the bigger heart and is the best sister I could have. Erin and Dan are amazing, and they go out of their way to be a part of our lives wherever we are and give us unconditional love. And it wouldn't be the same without you here. And Erin, nobody shares my love of ABBA quite like you do. My brother is a superstar, and he's a super dad to Sophia. I have to tell you this one story. 12 years ago, JT and I were moving to DC, and I was 8 months pregnant. My military orders were late, but I had to start work before we had a house unpacked or even clean. And of course, the baby came right then. But Cameron and his wife, and then 5-year-old Sophia, who learned how to vacuum, they pitched in with everything we needed: cleaning, food, and support. Thank you for being there when we really, really needed you. And JT's family, and in JT's family, it's kind of a big deal when you get to have a special day. You get to pick anything you want to do with Grandma and Grandpa: build a bear, go to a movie, have lunch, or do all three. The kids would look forward to special day all year long. But JT's family made every day a special one. And Kathy and Tom couldn't be here today, but I'm especially glad that Deanna and Paul could make it, and we love you. So I attribute my military career to my family as much as anyone who wears a uniform. But I do want to turn to the airmen I served alongside as well, and I'd like to recognize a few of my role models. I'll just kind of list them off for a second. Colonel Dave Porter, Colonel Kurt Papke, Brigadier General Dana Bourne, Lieutenant General Darrell Robertson, General Arnie Bunch, General Owen Polakowski, Lieutenant General Ricky Rupp, Lieutenant General Abu Nahum, and in this room, Lieutenant General Carl Schaefer. I also had the good fortune to get a front row seat with some of the best leaders that this Air Force has ever produced, and the kind of leaders that make everyone better. In particular, General Larry Welsh and General Larry Spencer and General Mark Welsh. They challenged me with once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. I didn't always know I was ready, but they showed me how to rise to any occasion, and they played a very large role in who I am today. And it's not always easy to make the Air Force a career, and sometimes a challenge arises that makes it tough to hang on. And I've had a few of those. And so I owe a special thanks to Lieutenant General Mark Ramsey, Miss Lisa Disbrow, General Janet Wolfenbarger, and Colonel Mike Brayman. Each one went out of their way to help me through unusual situations, and I simply would not be here without their support. And I have always tried to pay it forward and make it better for anyone who might follow in my footsteps. My memories of serving the Air Force will be chock full of the friends I've made and had the honor to serve alongside. Your camaraderie, loyalty, and the times that we've shared are dear. Laura Lenderman, Sue Petrowski, Caroline Miller, Nancy Donnelly Ivy, hello. Rich Tempolsky, Dale White, and Heather Blackwell. Our friendship will long endure after I hang up this uniform. I also got lucky to have the kind of friends who drop everything to be here, traveling from out of state. Steve Whitney, Allie Trevino, Troy Dunn, and Michelle Paget are those kinds of friends. Mark and Liz Lee, Jim and Jan Browning from Texas, Tom and Kim Miller are all those kinds of friends, and many more. And I hope I got you all, but it's more than I deserve, and I'm grateful to have you all here. So now comes the hard part, almost done. I have 3 awesome kids born in 3 different states. One son attended 3 different high schools, and the other attended 4 different elementary schools before he hit the 4th grade. They had to rely on Dad or each other when Mom was more than halfway around the planet, home late, or working weekends. Needless to say, my kids had to develop resiliency pretty early in life. It's really hard to be the one that causes that sort of churn in your family's life, especially when the kids had no choice but to be along for the ride. But no one ever complained. In fact, they all thrived, and I could easily brag about them for hours. My daughter is sassy, smart, and stronger than she gives herself credit. I can't tell you how incredible it is to watch her living her best life while she's saving lives at the same time. And Jordy, I don't know how you turned out so well, but I think it was a smart move to tell your dad that you were gonna fix your own hair when you were 6 years old. And with Zach, you get a brilliant, selfless, and patient teacher. He's always the first to pitch in or help anytime we move or have big life events. And more often than not, these things happened on his birthday. He's also pursuing a career in one of the most impactful but most difficult technologies of our time. Zach, we believe in you. We're proud of you. And none of us has any idea what a neural architecture search is, but we're definitely going to be there to celebrate when you graduate. And I love you. And Bryce, you might think we couldn't get lucky with 3 out of 3 kids, but the older 2 say that Bryce got all the good genes. He is kind, a little self-conscious, and very considerate of others. He gets good grades, and despite beating me at chess, at running, at soccer, gym rummy, and well, everything, Bryce simply doesn't know how awesome he is. Whatever he decides to pursue in life, he will excel. Just promise me, Bryce, that you won't grow up too fast. So I couldn't write this next section without crying and tears, so let's just hope I don't have to break out the ABBA. I've known JT since I was 15 and always admired how hard he works. He goes out of his way to make others around him feel comfortable, even when he is uncomfortable himself. That picture in the program is my favorite. It's the Air Force Ball. There's hundreds of people there, and I think we're having a good time. And so do you see JT smiling, but he's nervous because I have to give a speech. He's worried about Bryce because we left him with a new babysitter. And he's trying to remember all the names of the people we just met, just in case he runs into them while he's running out all those errands for our family. I don't think I really understood how hard this has been on him. And I put everything on JT's shoulders so I could be all in for the Air Force. And at times I took it for granted. But thanks to JT, we have a good life and we have great kids. And no matter how hard it's been on JT, let's see, can I see this? He never tried to slow me down, and I could never say thanks enough. And I'm super excited about this next adventure with you, and I love you. And I'm sorry I forgot all the presents, but we'll just do that afterward, you know. It's okay, because we need to move on. So in closing, I always feel indebted to the Air Force for the opportunities I've been given. And despite leaving it all on the field, I hope I did, I will constantly wish that I could have done more to show my appreciation, my deep, deep appreciation for every moment and every airman who serves. But I plan on making up some lost time with the family while taking in the beauty of the Rocky Mountains. I will definitely spend more time on things like attending 12-year-old soccer, playing more piano duets with Dad, running the trails of Colorado, albeit slower than the 12-year-old, and perfecting the art of frozen waffles. So thank you, thank you, thank you again from the depths of my heart. It's been an honor to serve with each and every one of you. I just could go on and on. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, General Pringle. Please stand and join us for singing the Air Force song and remain standing for the departure of the official party.